Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range. Now the chap has brought us another rare treat today.
Yes indeed. Here we have a 1869 Werder rifle. Werder, not to be confused with Verdul. Now the Werder is basically the last military tilting block rifle. It was developed by the Bavarians, so before they were integrated into Prussia. And yeah, it's got some very, very neat features. Obviously tilting block. It's got, this is the cocking hammer, has a half cock, it's got a rebounding hammer, it's got an ejection system, which we'll see in action. Basically when you feed the cartridge in, lifts the block, cocks the hammer. Once you fire, you can see there's the rebounding hammer. Once you've fired, press the forward trigger, it ejects, and you're ready to go again. So, I haven't fired this yet, so it's a treat for me too. There's the cartridge. So it's various names for it, but it's roughly 11.5 by 50R. When, after the end of the Franco-Prussian War, when Bavaria was assimilated into Prussia, the Prussians insisted that this should fire the same ammunition as the Mauser 71. So practically all of them were rechambered, and they then produced some new ones in that caliber as well. So the only ones that basically didn't get converted were the ones that weren't in the arsenals. This one was found in Orléans, so where the Bavarians were stationed, so it's probably got left behind and as such escaped any violation by the Prussians. The pistol versions and the carbine versions weren't converted. They fire a shorter cartridge. They obviously didn't see any point in converting those. Let's see how it goes. That's two. There we go.
Well, hey.
That's why nickname was Blitzgewehr, or lightning rifle.
It is quite quick.
Yeah. Once you get into the rhythm of things, obviously you'll be taking it from your cartridge pouch, high on your belt, obviously. Yeah, they're all high, but not bad for a good pace of shooting. It's ironic that the Bavarians had, during the 1870 war, they had that, which was basically top of the range at the time, and they also had the Podeville Cylinder, a horrible breech-loading percussion rifle. So they had the best and the worst. So now, we're done with shooting. I'll take it back to the workshop and I'll show you what the insides look like, because it's really rather special. So here we are back at the workshop, and as promised we'll take a look at the insides. Now, disassembly is ridiculously simple. This big large screw, take it out, trigger guard backwards, just push in the spoon just to withdraw the extractor, and there we go. There's the entire action in one cassette. This also means, of course, you can clean the bore easily. You've got unobstructed access to the breech, and you can clean them all in there. So yeah, very, very well thought out. So now let's take a look at that system. So here are the guts. It's in a breech block down position. This is very important for the Werder, because in this configuration none of the springs in here are under tension. So if you have one of these, be it pistol, carbine or rifle, store it, hammer down, block down. And if you just prise that off, see, there are the insides. Real clockwork. Now this can all be taken apart, easy as pie. And that's the 3 springs, ejector, stroke, extractor, trigger and breech block lock, hammer and block, which has a captive firing pin, also sprung and biased in the back, so that's responsible for the rebounding hammer effect. And yep, it goes back together pretty easily. He says, there we go, 1 spring. There. And there we go. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you the complete cocking action without putting the plate back on. Something just misaligns enough that it won't stay. But I can show you the beginning of the movement. When you tension the hammer, you can see how the different parts are interacting. And what will happen is, when this is fully cocked, this lug here sits under this curved surface here, and this arm here sits on the tip, under the tip of this piece here. Now, because the hammer then is cocked due to the notch on it, this trigger is locked out until the hammer's fired. So you can't drop the block with the hammer cocked. So I'll just do it, and maybe you can see through some of the holes what's actually happening. Right, and with the cover back on, hopefully I can still explain a little bit how it works, and you can see through the different holes here in the system. So, first stage, when you pull back the hammer, the omega spring here of the hammer is compressed, but also the V spring under the rear of the breech block is also compressed. This is going to then store the energy needed to drop the breech later. When this happens, I'm going to show you here. Keep that pressed, otherwise I'll get problems. So the hammer is obviously locked out by the sear of the trigger. When I cocked back the hammer, the roller arm rolled on the camming surface underneath the breech, which forced it upwards. Also, the lug I showed you on the trigger forced the arm on the front trigger here underneath this arm, which is part of the block. This then locks it in the raised position. Now, because the lug is there, it also means you can't release the front trigger and drop the block when the hammer's cocked. So here I can press it, nothing happens. So you can't drop the block without having fired, or at least having hammered down. So if the poor old Bavarian soldier was told "Entladen," he would first have to very carefully drop the hammer and then flick the front trigger. But hey, different standards back in the day. So now if I fire, the hammer flies forward, does its job on the firing pin. The lug on the hammer, which was pushing against the back of the front trigger, drops. This frees up the front trigger so that when I push it, its arm here is going to trip off the extension under the breech block, which releases the breech block down due to the stored energy of the V-spring here, which still hasn't been released. And when it does that, the tip of the breech block is going to smack the tail of the extractor ejector, and it's going to over travel as it does that, to permit the brass to eject. In a neutral position, it's actually a little bit into the chamber, so that you could actually carry this with the breech down, a cartridge inserted, and the cartridge wouldn't fall out. And that's quite a common feature for dropping blocks. So Martini Henry, you can also do that, although the lever sometimes needs to be hanging, shall we say, otherwise inconvenient. So let's just show you that. There we go. So as you see, travels down a bit and then goes up to a neutral position. So there we go, that's how the whole system works. Interestingly, there is also a safety notch of sorts. It's not really what we'd call safety by today's standards, but there is a second deeper notch in the hammer, which you can probably hopefully see there, it's just engaging. Now, contrary to, let's say, a percussion or a flintlock, which the intention is that the sear engages deep enough that you need to recock the hammer to be able to fire, this one basically increases the trigger pull to a level where you really want to fire. You really need a lot of strength to fire it. It's not very convenient without it out of the gun, but what it's going to do is it's going to cock the hammer the rest of the way and release it, but only after, with a fair bit of force. If I can do this. There. So it doesn't completely lock it out, but you've really got to mean it to pull the trigger. In terms of more, how should we say, perhaps more obvious safety, some have a little gate screwed in which then can block this channel here to prevent the hammer from moving. I don't know if this was an official retrofit or if it was something that was done once these entered the civilian market, because there are some slight variations on it. So there we are. I'll just slip that back in with this big screw. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed seeing the insides of that very special rifle. And well, as usual, like our Facebook, like and subscribe to the channel, and see you on the range or in the cave sometime. Bye!